Hello, everyone, and welcome back, or welcome to the first time, to Page Chewing Comics and Manga Pick of the Week. I believe this is episode number 32. If I'm wrong, my friend Steve will correct me.
No, you got it.
Oh, great.
I'm glad you remembered.
If you are joining us for the first time, we're two guys who are getting back into comics after a fairly long hiatus. I think we've got quite a few to talk about. I think we were both relatively happy with what we read and had troubles finding a final pick of the week. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Steve to talk about his first read.
Yeah, it was a pretty damn good week. I got to say, some weeks are a little down, some weeks are a little up. Sometimes, it just depends. But kind of surprised how much I enjoyed the books. It was a tough pick. After each one that I read, I thought this is for sure the pick, and then I'd read another one like this is for sure the pick. So it was a tough one. So my first one was Blood Commandment 4. This is by Simon Kodransky by Image Comics. This is the last issue of the series, issue 4, and I have a mixed reaction. On one hand, of course, the art is stellar throughout. It's the tone, the colors, the way the vibrant colors pop off the page. I mean, from beginning to end, the artwork was just top notch. This last issue was filled with exposition, just a ton of exposition, ton of dialogue. And I think it would have benefited from having one more issue to help build up the characters and their relationships. So the moments that happened in the last issue would have had a bigger payoff. It would have hit harder than it did. It would have had more weight. I just felt like there was a few moments in the last issue that should have been more impactful. And I just felt like it was, but I felt like it tried to squeeze in too much at the end. And there was a few characters that I'm not sure really needed to be there. I don't know that they really added anything to the story. It could have been more of a focused story, and there's some side characters that we visit a little bit, and you kind of feel like they're setting something up, but nothing really comes of it. So on one hand, I did like kind of I kind of dig the religious stuff at the end, the questions and things that the themes that they kind of bring up and kind of the choices that are made. I dug it, but at the same time, I felt like if it would have been a little bit more focused, I think it would have just been really, really great. It was still good, but I felt like a little bit of a missed opportunity. But with all that said, I'll have the trade on my shelf when it's available, because I think it's for the artwork alone, I think it's worth having on the shelf.
Yeah, I read it last week, and I had a pretty similar take. I can't agree with you more that there was just, I think I remember vividly, we have these beautiful images, and then there was like a page or two where it's just all these bubbles, all this writing, and it just seemed out of place. And yeah, I was curious to hear your take on the kind of the end there without going into details too much, not to spoil it, but I guess he took a risk.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I would have made, if I was in the same position, but anyway, definitely not forgetting the writer's name, but he took a risk for sure.
Yeah. I kind of like that. I mean, I think I appreciate when they don't play it safe, even if it doesn't work. It's still, hey, look, you took a swing. Yeah. So I appreciate that, instead of just doing kind of what we expect and kind of taking the same path that we've seen taken time after time. So even though it wasn't, it didn't hit as hard as it maybe could have, I still think it's great that when you just take your shot and see what happens. Yeah. So kudos for that. So the next one on my list, and this is a series that I've been reading since the beginning, which is Kill Your Darlings, and it's issue 6 by Ethan S. Parker and Griffin Sheridan. This is by Image Comics. From the very first issue, this book pulled me in. It has just a lot of heart. It's just dripping with heart is the best way I can describe it. It just immediately pulled me in, and it's been pretty solid throughout. I've enjoyed pretty much every issue. This is has a much darker tone than I was expecting. As usual, the artwork is stunning from cover to cover. We do get some revelations and some unexpected developments in this one, and I love where it's going, and it gets better and better with every issue. The world and the characters continue to evolve, and I really like kind of what we're setting up. Although I don't know, I have no idea where we're going, and I kind of like that. Like I have no idea what's going to happen next, so I appreciate that. But really great. So of course I'll be sticking with this one because it is, again, just the artwork alone in this book is just spectacular. So, but I do like where the story's going. I just don't know where we go from here, but I'm along for the ride.
Is this the last issue?
No, I'm not sure. I think there's a few more.
Okay.
I can look. I don't think it's too much longer, but the world seems to get bigger and bigger, and there's more things pop up. So I'm fine if it goes on for a while. I think it's you get the feeling that it could go on for longer if they wanted it to. So I like that too.
Yeah, it sounds great. I think it maybe be too far along for me to try to catch up. But you never know. So my next pick, I'm a little bit embarrassed to say it, but I don't know, and I don't know why I picked it, but I'm kind of happy that I did, and it's called Elvira meets H.P. Lovecraft. Maybe I needed like some humor or something. I think that might have been, as Steve knows some of the stuff that I'm reading, and once in a while. But it's still it was. So this is by Dynamite Comics. Is issue number 1. I guess there's a Elvira series that has gone on for 30-some issues, and then the original actress that played Elvira in the 1980s show that she hosted B movies. She's like somehow involved, which is kind of interesting. So just to her name is Cassandra Peterson, and this is by Avalon and Ball. Not sure if I'm pronouncing the names correctly. So again, I'm not so sure what compelled me to buy this, but I think maybe I did say something about I maybe just needed some humor, but I also know there's a lot of crossovers, and I just was like, well, maybe this will be my first foray into some of these crossovers since joining the podcast. So I gotta say, I right off the bat, I felt that the I didn't feel that the humor was like 1980s humor. Like I felt like it was updated pretty well. So the writing it's not easy to pull off. It's a mix of horror but funny. There's a little bit of horror, kind of more full-on horror scenes in here as well, which I think people would like. The dialogue of H.P. Lovecraft, who obviously is met early on in the story, is hilarious, because if you've read anything by him, it's like just written in his style. So like it's he uses extra words, and he uses words that we don't use so much. And just an example is, my manners were never good. I shall endeavor to improve them. So it's just, but usually his dialogue is much longer. It's just funny. And so basically they're trying to track down the true Necronomicon. So that's, it's kind of not, it's just a basic story. The artwork is pretty good quality. It's not what I usually go for. I think, I think generally I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's just, there might be a few instances where I was maybe not with it, but it's just not something I usually go for otherwise. But who knows? I might continue with this because it tickled my funny bone, briefly. So it's, once in a while, I appreciate that.
Nice. So were you taking a chance, or did you have high hopes for it when you grabbed it, or what was your?
I gotta say, I was curious how he was going to be portrayed, based on what we say about him in today's,
Yeah,
social standards and the way we view the world. And, he, I think it's pretty well documented that he had a lot of issues with people of other race. It's even in his stories. And they addressed that actually pretty early in a way that I thought was somewhat, I think it's bad. I don't know. It was done in a way that didn't affect me too much. So even though I'm not a young person, anyway, that might have been what intrigued me. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it worked out.
Yeah.
Nice. I didn't see that one coming. But glad it worked out. So my next one is Skeeters number 3. This is by Kelly Williams, Bob France, and Kevin Cuff by Mad Cave Studios. I've been really enjoying this series. I think the first 2 issues were, I think one of them was my pick, and the other one was really, really close to being the pick. So the first couple issues were just lots of dark humor, lots of kind of clever dialogue. Just really enjoyed it. This issue wasn't as big of a hit for me. The humor became more one-liners and quips, and kind of as our heroes battle the monsters, and a lot of them just kind of fell flat for me. It just didn't work. Just wasn't. I'm pretty picky with comedy, and these ones just didn't do it for me. The art is still great, and there's one more issue to go, so of course I will see it through because I've really enjoyed the rest. This one just kind of a bummer for me, but so we'll see how it finishes up. But still, I think the first 2 issues especially were fun. This one just wasn't as fun.
Oh yeah, I had expected you to really. I'd expected you to have a really good time with this one because I remembered your reviews of the first 2 were just over the top, happy, excited, and appreciative. And sometimes it's not maybe easy to keep the balance of humor and horror going. I don't know.
Yeah,
it can't be easy.
No. So kind of a bummer, but
so I kind of went out of order, but that's okay. So it doesn't matter too much.
No.
So my next book is Alien. I think it goes by Alien Descendant, although the cover just says Alien. And this is issue 4 of 4. And maybe at one point I said I was going to stop reading it, but I stuck through to the end. And I think the last time I talked about the 3rd issue, I was having a little bit higher hopes. And so this is by Marvel, and the authors are Shelby and Brocado. Terrible pronunciation job on my part. One thing I will say that I appreciate about these 4 issues, and maybe other people don't like this at all, is they do a nice summary of what's happening. So there's like a page, it's like on page 4, it's not right at the beginning, where they basically kind of summarize where this is, and they kind of tell you where this fits within all of the movies and stuff. I think, and I recently watched Aliens, just with my son. And what's interesting is that there's a queen on the cover, the version that I have. However, no appearance of a queen in this issue, so that's a little bit bizarre.
It's a bummer.
So we're still following the story of Zasha and her relationship with the long lost android, or they're referred to as synths here. There's a bit of a battle going on with not 1 but 3 types of xenomorphs, I believe. I'm not so sure about one of them. it's a little bit, one of the one that I'm not so sure about is very strange. I'm not so sure if it fits very well. And so the ending wraps up a little bit better than I had expected, with some like a good emotional touch. However, for the reason I mentioned with, these various xenomorphs, aliens, it's a little bit contrived. So I have mixed feelings about the ending. And and just kind of not to belabor that point, it's not really doing anything interesting in my opinion. But, I could see huge fans being okay with it, but I'm not sure. I will just on a final note, I will say that they advertise two new series. I don't think I'm going to be continuing, but one of them is based on the character of Carter Burke, who was played by Paul Reiser in Aliens, and he is an author, which I thought was pretty interesting. I don't know. And remember, he was like the bad corporate dude, and yeah, he's all nice in the beginning of Aliens.
Yeah, I think they're gonna get me with that one.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I wanted to let you know, Steve. I know you're a big fan of the franchise. I don't know if I would recommend this series, but there's another series. I forgot the name. It's called like Red, Black, and White or something like that.
I think I saw the preview for that, or I saw it somewhere. But yeah, the other alien. There's a ton of alien books right now. It seems like there's more than one going on. But yeah, the Burke story I think might.
Interesting.
I think they might get me.
All right.
Yeah, they might get me. So will you continue with this one?
This is the end. This is the
big. It's over.
The big finale. Yeah. So.
Oh wow! Didn't sound like it was too big though.
It's a weird ending. Anyway, I don't know. I won't go into too much detail to spoil everything. But
that's unfortunate. Yeah, I just think they're incentivized to not give too much of a definitive ending for a lot of these because they want to keep them going. So that's what's kind of it eliminates a lot of the tension and a lot of the because it's going to continue. So who knows how?
Yeah, indefinitely.
Yeah. Well, I guess they paid a lot for the they paid Fox and everything. So I guess they're getting their money's worth, but at some point needs a rest. So my next one was Infernals #1. This is by Noah Gardner, Ryan Parrott, John G. Pearson, and Lola Bonato. Sorry, probably butchered the name. Sorry, Lola. This is by Image Comics. In this one, we're introduced to the son of the devil, but the kind of the catch is he's mortal. He's a crime boss, and he is on the verge of death by natural causes. Just age. So he's trying to decide who's going to take over his empire. He's trying to prepare for the apocalypse, and it's kind of a fun twist. It's like Secession, but with in hell, or with the devil's family instead of instead of a business. So he's trying to decide who's going to take over his empire, trying to kind of solidify his place, but still find someone to hand it over to. And then we visit all of his different children and their different outlooks and what they do. And of course, they're all pretty terrible. But it is a little bit familiar because it might be because I'm finishing up Secession myself on season 4, so maybe it feels a little bit more familiar. But it does feel like we're kind of retreading other things. But still, I thought it was interesting. The art is really great. And even though it is a little familiar, I'll add it to my list. So, yeah, I'll continue with it.
Yeah, I definitely saw that one. It was in my hands, and I don't know what happened. It might have been one of those weeks where I thought I had too many. So I feel I'm personally bummed that I missed out on that one, but I might catch up with you. It sounds really good.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting, even though it is a little familiar, it still had its moments. So we'll see how it works out.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the next book is a series that I've been enjoying. It's called Unnatural Order, and this is issue number 3 by Yost and Rodriguez, and this is from Vault Comics. So I was really looking forward to this one. I gotta say, I was a little bit. I mean, this series is confusing. It's maybe not for everybody, but this one may have gone a little. In some cases, I was turning pages and I was like, "Did I miss a page here? Like, I don't know what's going on." Sometimes I feel like that's a challenge. Sometimes in some comics, like when you're jumping from different scene to scene, because we have characters that are from different periods in time. We have like the main character, Murphy. He's like a present day, I guess army or military guy. I think he's probably I don't know how far along he is in his career, but he's maybe private or what have you. And then we have druids, which is the main antagonist is a druid character that basically wields magic that, just it kind of wreaks havoc on the world and time and brings up monsters. And so there's just a lot of stuff going on here. People jumping through time, as I mentioned. I do appreciate the creativity, however, and diversity of ideas. And so that's just something that I've always appreciated, but I could see it being a bit much for some people. There's a pretty big twist at the end here. I'm curious where it goes, and that really was kind of like issue 1. So this is issue 3, so they're kind of keeping that trend going. Like on the last page, you're like, okay, this is already, at 10 on, WTF, and it brings it up another notch. So I kind of like that. I appreciate it from time to time. And it was almost my pick of the week, but I think there was just a few moments where I was like, I did have to go back to issue 2, and I reread issue 2, and even issue 2, I was like, I probably need to reread it. Reread issue 1. I'm sticking with the series. I think I don't know if the next issue is the last one, or I'm probably going to continue beyond that. But yeah, it's interesting.
Huh. I know it seems like it's been pretty solid throughout. I think sometimes those books that have the WTF cranked up, they're the funnest ones. But maybe after the fact, not so much in the moment.
Yeah,
we have time to reflect and think about it.
I will just say I give a nod again to the artwork. It's it just really works for me, and the coloring. This is a case where you're like, okay, whoever was the colorist, her name is Deirbla Kelly, I believe. She nailed it with this one.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a symphony of colors, like from page to page. Yeah.
I can never find this one on my store. I'm going to have to try to order it or buy it digitally. We can catch up. I like the WTF aspect of the WTF cranked up. So the next one for me was The Six Fingers, number 1. This is by Dan Waters, Sumit Kumar, and this is by Image Comics. This one we follow a young man who discovers something about himself that is a little shocking. He's also trying to get a grant to excavate to find the source of an item that his father left him. So he's trying to scrape by while he's also trying to get a grant for this project. He's trying to kind of develop. So what really caught my attention about this one, what really kind of drew me to it, is how flawed our main character is and how he is. It's not really what you would expect. Just his personality. I don't want to say he's not likable. You still root for him, but you realize that he has a lot of shortcomings. But in that way, he's kind of relatable. I kind of like that. He has flaws, but he's sympathetic. Overall, it was a good first issue, and there was enough set up here to keep me reading, so it'll go on my list to keep them coming. So overall, I thought it was good.
So what genre would you say this might fit in?
That's a good question. I think this is more science fiction, fantasy, maybe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I only say that because when I did take a sneak peek online here, and it looked more like horror to me, so I'm glad I asked.
It might take that turn. There are some aspects, but I think it dips a little bit into science, and it also has some fantastical elements in it. May even go into crime and maybe a little bit of horror too. Yeah.
Cool.
So the next one, this was really, really close to being my pick of the week. Really, really close. I really struggled with this one. And it's a book I had no intention of ever picking up. But I kept hearing about Ultimate Spider-Man. Everybody's talking about it, ranting and raving about how great it is. And I just thought, okay, I'll try it. And it also didn't hurt that Jonathan Hickman is writing. So, that was a bonus. I didn't expect a whole lot. But I thought if I'm going to complain all the time about continuity and not being able to get into these superhero books and kind of complaining all the time about how I just don't understand what's happening, when an Ultimate book comes out, I should probably give it a try. And plus, it's been really, all the reviews are really great. I really liked it. It's another thing that I was avoiding. There's a reason I was avoiding this one is because I thought it was a coming of age story, but it's not, because this Peter Parker is older. He has a family. I think he's in his 30s or 40s maybe. So he is already established. He has this, it's almost like an adult who's kind of finding his way through this superhero thing. There's some really funny moments in it, and there's a couple of interactions with Shocker that were just funny. I mean, it was just fun. It was just like a fun book. So there are some familiar faces from the Spider-Man universe, but if you're not familiar, I don't think it's really takes away too much from it. So it's a lot lighter fare than I'm used to, than I usually read, but yeah, it was nice. It was really good.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you picked that one up. So I have just a very basic question: was there some kind of event that because you said this is an ultimate, one of the, maybe there's other ultimate titles, and I did see something about the Ultimate Invasion.
I don't think it's related. I think this is more of a kind of a fresh start. So if you're at all familiar with Spider-Man or just the basics, I think you pretty much know what's happening. I didn't even read issue 1, but I kept hearing that you can just get into issue 2 and you don't really skip a beat. And I didn't really feel like I missed out on anything. It's just fun. Just a fun book. Funny, entertaining, and I'm definitely on board with this one.
That's great.
To my surprise.
Yeah. And it's Marvel.
Yeah. I'm shocked. Yeah, I liked it so much. I was really, really surprised. But it's just a fun book.
Yeah. That's great. So I guess I have a pick of the week. It's not a very strong pick of the week, but I'm definitely happy with this one, and I think the majority of what I read for this week. And the title is Blue Book. I believe it could be Blue Book 1947. And this is by an author I think we're pretty familiar with, James Tynion, with artwork by Michael Avon Oming. So, yeah, right in the title there, you've got 1947. So this definitely takes place after World War II, and we've got a character who's, I don't think we know too much about. He's like a businessman, but he's flying a plane and he investigates something very peculiar. He hears about a crash landing and goes to investigate. And what does he see? Some objects flying at torrential speed, and so that's a big part of the story of him kind of trying to make sense of what he just saw, and I have a sense that this is based on what really may have happened when people started to see flying objects. They weren't even using the term UFO yet. Mm-hmm. There's newspaper clippings in one of the pages describing after, the protagonist, he does talk to the press about what he's seen. It starts to become big news, and then other people are reporting it, and they're seeing these flying saucers, and like I said, it seems to be. I wish I had researched this before the podcast, but I get the sense that these are true historical accounts. And the artwork is really different. It's monochromatic, mainly. It's mainly blue tones, with black and blue, black, and white, basically, and very basic. But for some reason, it works well with the story, and it has kind of a cinematic feel in a way. So I do appreciate how this has been put together. I will just, maybe my one negative maybe is that sometimes it could move a little bit slow. And I don't, it's not, I wouldn't say it's fast paced or anything, but that doesn't bother me. So that's kind of a slow burn so far. And I'm going to continue with this one. See where it goes.
I think in fact, I'm pretty sure the Roswell crash was in 1947. That might be what this is referencing.
You know what, though? This takes place, so maybe it's not, maybe it's all made up, because this mainly takes place in Washington State. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, and the character's name is Kenneth Arnold, and he's flying near Mount Rainier. So maybe it's all made up.
Interesting. Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm intrigued for sure.
Awesome. Oh, I forgot to mention it's by Dark Horse Comics. Oh well.
Blue Book, huh? I'm a fan of UFO stuff, so maybe it'll be a good one. So my pick, like I mentioned, this is a really tough one because just so many books. First it was Kill Your Darlings, and then I thought Ultimate Spider-Man for sure would be my pick, and then I read Spawn 350, and I went back and forth. So my pick this week is Spawn 350. I hesitate to get on these books that are in the hundreds because I just don't know if it's a good time to jump on. But I kept hearing that this is a great jumping on point because of the events. And it really was. There were some events that I remember reading way back in like the 90s that were paying off now in this book. So it's a little bit weird. There's a lot, of course, that happened in between, but it was pretty neat. This one is by Rory McConville, Todd McFarland, and by Image Comics. And in this one, we find out who takes the throne in hell. And it's a storyline that was set up, I think, in issue 100. And this is a book that I read that I remember picking up issue 1 when it launched with all the other Image titles. And I remember it being, it's like the greatest thing ever. 12-year-old or 11-year-old me just thought it was the best thing ever. And so it was a big nostalgia bomb because all the artwork felt very familiar. It had that kind of look and feel to it. So it brought me back, and maybe that was part of the reason why I liked it so much. But either way, I think it was fun. Again, it was just going back and revisiting these characters and seeing the changes and seeing kind of where we go from here. And I think it'll be a good time to jump on. So if you're like me and you've been off Spawn for a while, you're looking for a place to jump back on, I think this is a good time to do it. If you are on the fence like I was. And there's a big shift that happens in this one that, again, it's there's a big change of events that I think would be a good, not wiping the slate clean, but a good place to jump on if you're at all even just vaguely familiar with Spawn and kind of the way his powers work. So I would really like to read issue 1 again someday and just read them all from 1 to 350 and just catch up. This is a project I'd like to do one of these days, but one of these days I'll take that one up. But in the meantime, I'm really enjoying this one. I'll be checking out 351, and I'll also be jumping on the other Spawn books because of the letter in the back, it isn't mentioned by Todd McFarlane that the other books will also be following this new storyline. So it sounds like it's a good time to get back into Spawn if you've been away for a bit.
Yeah, so it's really great that you got back into Spawn. I have to admit that I never read any of the comics, but I did check out the HBO animated series way back in the day. I think I was probably way too young, but been meaning to do the same and like start from volume 1. So I might have to jump on the bandwagon here as well with 350. Sounds really cool.
Yeah, the cartoon was, I think the animated show is pretty close to the book. Remember it being pretty close. So, yeah.
That was great.
If you know enough, if you're even vaguely familiar with that, then I think you'll probably be okay. That's all.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a nostalgia bomb for sure. I dug it a lot. Really tough week. Lots of good books.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's it for us this week. Thanks everyone for listening, and if you'd like to connect with either of us, we're both on pagechewing.com. Visit our forums, come and say hello. And lots of reads always going on. I think we're reading the next Brubaker and Phillips book, Where the Body Lies, I believe it's called. The new one that they had recently. Then we have discussions. We're planning the dates and times for that. But come by and say hello and chat us up about comics or whatever else you want to talk about. Tell us how wrong we are about whatever we say. But in the meantime, hope everyone has a great week, and we will see everyone next time.